Welcome. Well, you're at home with Jim and Joy, and we wish you a blessed Christmas and a Happy New Year. You are an important part of our EWTN family, and we certainly have journeyed together this year. We would love to hear from you, so send us an email with a question or a comment to jimandjoy@ewtn.com. And this is the time of year when we do our show called A Year in Review for 2020, where we select some of our previous shows that we had on, whether they were Skyped or whether we had them live in. And we just bring them to you to refresh, to restore, to renew your faith journey.
And our first couple of shows will be on the theme Nurturing the Family. And then we'll go on with Pathways Through Disabilities. But for Nurturing the Family, we have Alan Migliorato, and he's sharing about falling forward, raising your children without a real fear of failure. You're going to fail, but just fail forward. Learn from your failures. And then we have also Catherine Romes with us, who speaks about Mighty is her call, the greatness of the feminine genius. And then Pathways Through Disabilities, Margaret Walsh and Christina Chase. And so they're speaking about their disabilities, or Margaret's speaking about working with people with disabilities. And then Christine is just a fantastic person with many and varied disabilities. And she speaks about the wonder, the sheer wonder of being alive and the sacredness of life and using her helplessness and littleness to identify with Jesus Christ. And so these are wonderful sharings. They're representative of the over 150 others shows that we've had of people that are sharing. And what a joy it is to bring these people to you. You make it possible for us, for EWTN, to do that. And EWTN is all about, not EWTN, but about bringing people like this to encourage our viewing audience, to encourage you, our family. So we'll be back in just a moment. Don't go away, and you'll hear about nurturing of the family and pathways through disabilities. May these shows help you to get off to a wonderful start in 2021. May somehow, some way, the best be yet to come in blessing and health to you and your loved ones. We'll be right back. Back. It is so wonderful to be with you for this special At Home with Jim and Joy as we look at the year in review. And our theme is the nurturing of the family. Nurturing the family with Alan Migliorato. The show first aired in September. He speaks about falling forward, how to train your children to take responsibility for their actions, successes or failures, and that if they do fail in something, that they fall forward. They fail forward, growing in that. Catherine Romes is another guest of ours, and Mighty is her call, the greatness, the feminine genius. It aired in July. So we hope that you'll be blessed, you'll be encouraged, and further instructed in the ways of the Lord, in the greatness of our faith as you go into 2021. Let's take a look.
Well, nobody likes to see their kids hurt and suffer and worry through things. But really, the key to this is parents don't want to feel like they failed. When you help your kids study for a test over and over and over and they fail, you feel like a failure as a parent. And we've got to stop, letting them assign guilt, letting our kids assign guilt to others. Let them take ownership of the failure and say, we are trying to help you as much as we can as your parents, but this is your job. This is what you do. If you fail at something, it's you. And we can't say that it's our failure. Yeah, and I tell a story. I don't know if I tell it in the book. I know I kind of allude to it, where I was going for my Eagle Scout award.
You do tell it in the. You do tell the story.
It's amazing what happens, and I'll share just a little bit of that with you. Is for my Eagle Scout project, one of the things that I did was I had to organize a whole camping trip, And when I got to the point where I had delegated, I was perfect. I delegated everybody's job, and I told everybody what they needed to do. And I said, I'm going to take the food. I'm going to make sure that I'm in charge of the food because I don't want that going wrong. Right. So you can see where this is going. It definitely. I left the food back at the church before, as we left to go camping. And as we're leaving, my dad says, "You got everything?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay." And so he knew that I had left the food back, but that's not his job to remind me. He was just an adult supervising. So we drive about 3 hours to this campsite, and he says, "What time's dinner?" And I said, "Oh, it's about an hour and a half." He says, "Well, what are you going to do because you didn't bring the food?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And so we figured it out. I mean, we figured it out. Nobody died. I'm here today. I learned a lesson not to be, such a big shot, hot shot, and then I delegate. I make sure I'm doing my job too.
Right.
Because he's like, "Look, you said dinner is in an hour and a half. You need to figure this out because we've got, 30 people here and we have adults who are mad beyond belief that I left the food back there." And they're like, "We're just going to find a grocery store nearby." And my dad said, "No, you're not. He's in charge of this." So what I did was I got all the other, I was in charge of the troop. I was the troop leader.
Right.
Then I got the little platoon leaders, like we had 5 different platoons. And I said, "Okay, you guys," I said, "I screwed up." And there's the first part of ownership is I screwed up. I left the food behind. And of course, some of them are mad and they're like, "Come on, Alan." And I'm like, I know. I mean, I can't produce it right now unless there's a little boy walking with 2 fishes and 5 loaves and we can get Jesus to show up here.
Right.
We need to figure this out. So I talked to him and I said, "Look, what can we do?" And we had driven through an orange grove to get there. So one of the kids says, me and Bob will go and we'll get some oranges, right?
Yes.
And then Jeff and another kid said, "Well, we'll go fishing." So they did. So we caught enough for that day, and they had some hearts of palm that were some smaller palm trees. So we made like hearts of palm, and we made pine needle like soup and things like that. It was really cool,
Yeah.
And for 3 days, we didn't have any food except what we caught by fishing, what we got in the orange grove, the roots that we gathered, and the different edible plants and things that we came across. So God provides. God provides.
Yeah.
But we've got to get to the opportunity where as parents, we're giving our kids that opportunity to let God provide, to let us learn, failing forward. The next time we had a camp out, I didn't forget a thing.
It was interesting to me to be raised in a situation where I was encouraged to be strong and powerful, but no one ever said to me, "And did you know that motherhood is one of those options? Do you realize how much motherhood influences the culture?"
Right.
Mothers, as John Paul II said, are the gateway to the future of humanity. I'm just so grateful to have stumbled upon this vocation of open to life motherhood because I find it to be a way of uniting myself to Christ in a very radical way. To me, just like a monk or a nun or a priest will radically give his or her life to Christ, I feel like open to life motherhood is comparable to that. It's different. It's a secular vocation as opposed to a religious vocation. And there are many differences that go along with that distinction. And yet, the vocation of motherhood really has a singular, meaning a unique way of drawing the mother to Christ. Just as, say, a discalced Carmelite is in a cloister and she finds in her cloistered life union with Christ through the self offering. She's given up her possessions. She has taken a vow of poverty and other vows as well. And she's united to Christ through those vows and through that profession. Well, I find motherhood, especially Catholic motherhood, so much like that, a parallel to that. I find that in motherhood, we are united. We have the possibility through the vocation to be united to Christ in a very special way. There are many kinds of mothers. So for me, as a biological mother, I've had 8 pregnancies, 6 live births, if you will. And for me, being pregnant and nursing so much of my adult life, I just find it unmistakable that parallel between my motherhood. When the child is in utero, the child is being nourished from my womb, from what I am supplying that baby with. And the baby takes over my body. I mean, my whole body gives way to the nourishment and growing and flourishing of this human life. And I feel like that's a little reflection of what Christ does for me in the Eucharist, right? Motherhood is a little reflection of the magnificent mystery of the Eucharist. And yet there is such a link. There's such a obvious similarity to me in the sense of what other vocation is there on earth that invites a human being by the nature of the vocation
Right.
to nourish other people with their body and their blood. I think that is remarkably unique for mothers, and that this Eucharistic theme is just there to be enjoyed and upheld.
Well, hun, that's the second time we've had Alan on our show. And he shares so beautiful that book, Falling Forward, with his daughters, how they journey through things and the beautiful stories that he shared. Alan shares the value of teaching teens how to grow through failure. He shared his own experiences with learning to take responsibility. And then he told that great story about his own life with his dad and how his dad let him fail. And that was just an awesome story. And I don't know if I would have done that as a parent, but his father taught him much. And then beautiful Catherine Romes, and she discussed the genius of Catholic motherhood and sharing the gospel through the lens of motherhood. She's over there in Rome. She did such a beautiful job. And just the elevation of being wife and mother. And yet, she's a professor in her own right, too. She's very educated. And all the ways that God is using this beautiful woman of God.
So we're going to take a break at this point, and there'll be plenty more to come as we hear about Pathways Through Disabilities with Margaret Walsh and Christina Chase. So again, plenty more to come to get you off to a wonderful start in 2021. That somehow, some way, the best is yet to come. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It is so wonderful to be with you at this time of the year, time of new beginnings. And so we have some special shows and clips from those shows that we want to share with you. And the theme is Pathways Through Disabilities. God always makes a way with our special conditions and disabilities and what we've been through in 2020 and going into the new years. I'll make a way for you. Margaret Walsh first aired in June. And she does a tremendous job in working with children with special needs and disabilities in Catholic schools and in homeschooling. She does that remotely. And Christina Chase first aired in October with multiple disabilities. And she is so filled with the Spirit of the living God and of the Lord. And she shares, it's so wonderful to be alive. It's so wonderful, the sacredness of human life. And she unites her disabilities to Jesus Christ. And God does amazing things through her. So be encouraged. Let's watch these shows and get off to a wonderful start in 2021. Take a look.
Coming from a homeschooling background and a beautiful Catholic family, that's one of the things that is really important to me, is to help the family learn how to work with their students, and also see the student as an entire person who is loved by a family, loved by God. Versus seeing them as just a diagnosis where we would just want to get the scores up type thing.
Gotcha.
Because there's so much more to every single student than just the grades, even though grades are important, so much more. We work with students one-on-one, typically in a closed classroom environment online. And it's myself and other teachers who've been trained professionally in any of the remediation that they would be dealing with the student. So all of us have been trained specifically in remediation. And I'd like to make a distinction within special education. There are kind of two pieces of the puzzle that if you put both of them together, it works very well. Typically in the schools, whether private or public school, special education diagnosis means that student gets an individualized learning program, which is the instructions differentiated so that the student can absorb it better, and the curriculum's modified so that the student can do less and still graduate. So that's modification and differentiated instruction, just regular instruction. What we're doing is remediation, which is helping strengthen the processing pathways that the student may or may not be using well so that they can actually achieve more. Instead of looking at the student saying, well, you have this diagnosis,
Right.
this is how we're going to teach you how to live with it. What we're trying to do is help the student go beyond that, to strengthen those learning processes so that they may not need as much modification as they did previously. And again, if you put both of those pieces of the puzzle together, you have really good success outcomes with students. So we're doing the other piece of the puzzle, which again is kind of bridging a gap between what the public and private schools are doing and what is kind of a missing link there, as well as bridging the gap with no resources being available for homeschoolers in private schools, or very few resources, I should say.
Well, Margaret, why is a Catholic environment for special education so important?
This is the beautiful part. And we do work with people who are not Catholic. We've worked with people who are just Christian, and we've worked with people who are just homeschoolers. But this really spoke to me when I was working in a secular clinic when I was at college. Seeing the struggles that the students had with just regular homework, regular subjects, there was a question in my mind: how much would a Catholic student know about the faith? And with any of these remediation services, you can use a variety of different materials. So what we've chosen to do is use Catholic materials because that's the most important thing that anyone is ever going to have to know is their faith. So education, academics are very important, but the faith is why God created us. Why did God create us? To know, love, and serve him on this earth and to be happy with him in the next. So that's why we've chosen to use a Catholic environment, Catholic materials to inspire students and to help them increase their abilities using these beautiful stories of the saints, and sometimes talking about catechism questions that pop up throughout the discussions. It's amazing seeing these students not only grow academically and be able to tackle their regular schoolwork, but also explore different ideas that they may not have done before. So that is why I believe a Catholic environment is so important, because they need to be able to explore those ideas with someone who can help them explore them in a safe and comfortable way, someone who they can trust.
Speak to us about the incarnation and what it means in your own life and what it means to us all.
Right. Well, it helped to overcome one big misconception of the Catholic Church that I had, which was that the idea is that life here is all suffering. But it's okay, because once you get through that suffering, then when you're dead, you'll get joy. And I thought that doesn't match with what I believe and what I experience in my own life. So, yes, after many, many years of searching and trying out all the different religions, avoiding Christianity, because I thought that was a dead question, I started to have to consider Christ and as a possibility, because all I wanted was the truth. I just wanted to know it was true. And I say that I came into the church through the portal of the incarnation.
Yes.
Because I did have something of a fear of the Lord, that tremulous awe of knowing God is God and I am not. And to then consider that infinite and eternal God should choose to become one of us, should choose to live in the limitations of being human, the confines of time and space, dependent upon the needs of a human body, abject dependency of the womb and infancy, and of course, suffering to know real suffering, to experience excruciating, literally, pain. That just drew me because nothing spoke more grittily of love and more profoundly of the truth that I knew about life than the incarnation. And though he was wrapped in swaddling clothes and too weak to even move his arms and legs because of a few strips of cloth, the word of God that spoke light and life into the universe, into being, he couldn't move. And yet, being that little did not demean or reduce the dignity of his divinity in any way. He was fully God and fully human. And of course, being disabled, sometimes people will look at those with disabilities in our culture and kind of treat them as less than. Like I'm not fully human because I can't go out in the world and do some things that other people can do.
Yes.
But the meaning of being fully human isn't in our accomplishments. It's simply in being loved into, divinely loved into being here in God's beloved creation, and to participate in that divine love, to really know that we're loved eternally, infinitely, and still intimately, because God has united himself with us in every aspect of our human lives, in every littleness, in every joy, as well as in every suffering.
Well, hon, those were two great shows with those two beautiful, holy women of God. And, Margaret Walsh, she shared about educating children with special needs and how faith informs her work with children. And she does it in a way that's fun, it's informative, and it helps children that are in public school, Catholic school, and homeschool. And she just does an outstanding job. And then we had beautiful Christina Chase. And she's authored that great book. It said that I'm glad to be here, right?
Glad to be alive.
It's so beautiful.
Glad to be here.
So Christina Chase shared about the mystery of Jesus' incarnation being a source of inspiration and comfort for people with disabilities. When Christina was sharing, and she was so beautiful, and she, just think about that. I mean, there she was, so distorted in her body and in her way, but her spirit was so alive. And she was so full of compassion about making you, who were viewing her, feel comfortable.
Yes. So
beautiful, and just a great story.
What an encouraging year from this standpoint, and so much adversity in 2020. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength, who strengthens me. I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They're plans for good, not for evil. Plans to give you a future that is full of hope. Go with him, because he is going with you. He is for you. May 2021 be a wonderful year in Jesus Christ. You're an important part of this family. You're always at home with Jim and with Joy. Bye now.